So it's a pleasure to be here, and I will try to give a short introduction to Mentice and what we do. So please move to the next slide. And disclaimer, we can move to next. So I'm just going to start by just give you the very brief facts about Mentice, and then just explain what we do, what image-guided endovascular therapy is. I mean, I'm not sure everyone understands that. So just give you a little bit of a background to what I will talk about going further on. Okay, move to the next slide, please. So Mentice is a Gothenburg-based Swedish company. We have been around for 20 some years, founded back in 1999. We are a 100 people company, about $70 million in revenue last year. Right now, this morning, $250 million in market cap, listed at the Stockholm Exchange. First North Premier. We are a very global company, even if we still are fairly small. So we have, I would say, less than 1% of our business in the Nordic countries, approaching 50% in the Americas region, and then the rest fairly evenly distributed between Asia and Europe. We have presence in 9 locations in the world with own staff. A main part of the business is in Gothenburg. About half of our staff is in Sweden. And then I would say 30% or so is in the US in 3 different offices. And then we have a subsidiary in Japan, in China. We have offices in India, in Middle East, in Dubai, in Brazil. So that's roughly where we are. We have decided since some 10 years ago to focus in on the endovascular arena. I will explain what that is. From before being more of a generic medical trading company. So we have a very strong market share in this specific field, more than 50%. We have delivered more than 1,500 systems, simulation systems, to our clients, both in the medical device industry and in the hospital market. In the hospital market, we have about 500 clients. So that's a very brief, sorry to throw a lot of data at you, but that's just a very, very brief overview. Please move to the next slide. So what is an image-guided endovascular procedure? It's really a set of treatments where you use an X-ray camera. On the left here, on the top, you see what's called a cath lab or a C-arm. So this is an X-ray camera that a doctor moves with a joystick over the body to focus in on a certain part of the body. The patient is then moved as well on a motorized table. So you position the camera over the part of the body you want to see. The treatments are done in the vascular tree of the patient, and you can treat everything that is attached to the vascular tree, to the blood system, all of the organs, but also the vessels. The basic principle here is that you enter into this system, typically to the groin or to your arm, and then you navigate up to the target point in the brain or in the heart or whatever treatment you will do. It's a very rapid transition to these kind of procedures from open surgery. And the reason for that is that you typically, the procedure is much faster. The fact that you have just a little open wound in the groin or in the arm would significantly reduce the risk for complications. It also require less kind of anesthesia. just because of less wound, but also because of the time of the kind of procedure. You can also, which also means that the ambulation time, so the time before the patient can rise up and leave the hospital, is also much shorter. This also means that you can treat virtually patients of any age. You can do very complicated heart procedures, as an example, of patients up to maybe 100 years of age, while before that you had a cutoff of maybe 82, 84, 85 years old. And you can also do a lot of new treatments that was not possible earlier. So that's sort of what the technique. Go to the next slide, please. Just to explain what Mentice does, we actually are mimicking or emulating this environment. So we have built a simulator, so it's a hardware, piece of hardware, but our main IP is in the software. I would say 80–90% of our IP is in the software, where we have built a physics engine that really mimics the vascular tree. And then we have an environment where we can bring in real patient anatomies from CT scans and similar. And we are also building virtual versions of the clinical devices that are used, which will allow an operator, a doctor, to use real clinical devices, introduce that in our hardware, get realistic feedback in their hands, and then see actual, very realistic images on the X-ray screen of that real treatment, which will allow you to, in a very realistic way, practice away from patients, and also train to specific targets, to train to benchmark. And also you can repeat and retrain on these how many times you can, which is in the alternative is not possible. The only alternative to this is really to train on live animals or on the patients. So this is a very cost-effective and safe way to practice your skill, but also to maintain your skills. All right, move to next. So what are we trying to solve, and why are we here? So move to next slide, please. So first, looking at the overall healthcare environment, and I think a lot of you already know this. I'm not going to dwell on this too long. But if you look at the healthcare environment, I mean, healthcare is doing fantastic things. I mean, now compared to just 10, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, the treatments we have available, the diseases we can cure, it's just amazing. But also, with that said, healthcare is still just in the start of a process to deal with the opportunities for process and quality improvement and structure and all of that. If you compare healthcare with other industries like manufacturing or process industry, I mean, many people say that healthcare is probably 50, 75, 100 years behind. That is one area. I mean, we obviously also look at the fact that we are getting older. There are treatments for elderly people that could keep us fit and in shape up to age of 100, which also means that we are moving the cost of healthcare up in very high ages. So all of this really comes together in I would say, a perfect storm, where many believe that the current cost for healthcare is way too high, while many people know that in the next 30 years, given the aging population, the cost of healthcare is probably going to double. And we are adding new treatment modalities of high cost and high efficiency that also will add to that kind of complexity. So that's the environment that we are working in. All right, move to next, please. So looking at, I made reference to other industries. If you look at what you would compare to, if you look at what we do, many people refer to flight simulation. So if you look at the aviation industry as an example, from the 1950s up to today, the aviation industry have gone through an amazing improvement of quality. I mean, what we see today is a situation where maybe 1 out of 10 million flights, or less than 1 out of 10 million flights, is exposed to some sort of complication or kind of similar. While in the healthcare industry we have more than 1 in 1,000. So there is obviously a lot of things needed in healthcare, and I mean, in many cases, but also for good reasons. There's a method of training called a preventive model. That means that you start by standing behind an experienced doctor, then after a couple of rounds you are changing place, so the junior is doing the treatment and the experienced guy stand behind, and then after another couple of turns, you as a junior will improve by training someone else. So that's the apprentice method that was implemented some 100 years ago, and still the main method of training. And in many cases, that is not accepted anymore, and it exposes everyone to way too high risk, and that's what we are part of trying to change. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just one example, and this is, I mean, I think this is very, very well illustrating the opportunity here. So the slide to the right shows 125 reporting hospital of the state of Illinois with respect to stroke cases, and this could be any region in the world, basically any procedure. So this is nothing specific with Illinois or with the stroke treatment. So at any high-end treatment, any region in the world would have the same kind of data. So what this chart shows is that depending on what hospital or what doctor you get to, you might be exposed to a difference in quality of a factor 4. It could be all the way up to a factor 10. So you have a large population of treatments done or procedures done in the world that is done by teams or physicians that have yet to reach its proficiency level, and that causes an enormous risk for patient and also a large quality issue. So that's what we're trying to solve. Next slide, please. So what we want to do, I mean, we are not limiting ourselves to training. We say that we want to be the clinical performance and patient outcome company by the solution we introduce. So we're talking about performance proficiency, and we're not in any way limiting ourselves to junior doctors. This is way more than that. This is a continuous improvement on all physicians and teams throughout the entire kind of career. So if I would have 5 minutes or 15 seconds rather in an elevator to explain what we do, I usually say we do flight simulation for doctors, which I think people would understand. All right, next slide, please. Yeah, so how are we solving these problems then? So let's move to next. So this is one example. I would say probably the most advanced integration we have. So this is an example with partnership we have with Siemens and Philips, Siemens Healthineers. So we are integrating ourselves into these cath labs, the treatment room. You see here one of these X-ray kind of piece of equipment that is used and has to be used to make this treatment. And on these tables, you can put a Mentice simulator. You plug it into the machine, and the teams and the doctors here are able to rehearse or practice on a very realistic patient. You see the real data on the screens, and you can move around with these with the table and the camera while you see the real information on the screen, and you can use real clinical devices in our machine. And again, the only alternative to this is to practice on the machine or learn the techniques while you have a real patient on the table here. So this is a significant change of practice to be able to provide this kind of realism for doctor and the training. Yeah, next slide, please. So we go all the way up to the right is what I just talked about. Going down to portable mobile simulators. A lot of cases our medical device client is moving around with these simulators, traveling to hospitals, doing trainings, all the way down to more portable units running on an iPad or a smartphone with maybe one wireless device, a Bluetooth device, is similar. So it's really a full spectrum of solutions, but everything is focusing on endovascular procedures. All right, next slide, please. So we work with, one of the benefits we have is we've been working with this for a long time. 65-70% of our business is up to the right with the medical device companies. So we do business with virtually every of the large device company. I would say a large majority of the 50 largest companies in the world. And if you list the 10 largest device company, I would say we do business with all these companies. Companies like Medtronic, Boston, Edwards Lifesciences, Abbott, to mention a few. And they come to Mentice and say, Mentice, can you build us our new product? It's going to be launched to the market in 6 months. We want you to build it, introduce it to the Mentice environment, and provide us with a training solution in order for us to train our own staff, but most importantly, train doctors to use our device in a safe way. And in many cases, that is required by the regulators for device companies to use a training device, and simulation is one of the most safe way to provide training today. The other market we have, which is the remaining 30-35%, is the hospital market, where simulation has been used for the last 15 years or so for training of junior fellows and residents. In Sweden, we call it AT and ST doctors, but also more and more the procedures we work with are really advanced, typically procedures you start doing after maybe 6, 8, 10 years of practice. So a lot of the things we have done the last 5, 6 years is procedures where you, as I said, start late in your career. Things like heart valves and similar. You do amazing procedures in the heart, introducing a new heart valve to the groin, for instance. All right. Next slide, please. So this is just example, and not to dwell on that. This is a training we did some time ago in UK, where the doctors here practice on a very, very complicated radiology procedure, and they just saw, instead of saying, typically people say that you need 100 cases or so to reach a proficiency. But these doctors saw that by combining a typical complication and anatomies, you can compress the training into 6 or 8 cases on the simulator that will be similar or more effective than participating in 100 cases on a patient. Next slide, please. This is another example from Stockholm, from Karolinska, where we have a group of doctors using simulation. This is actually patient-specific activities where for a heart valve procedure, a tricuspid procedure, it's a specific valve, you can actually import a specific patient's anatomy prior to the procedure. So the doctor can, the day before or the morning of the day when the patient comes in, can actually rehearse on that specific situation, and make decision on how the procedure is going to be done, what size of medical or clinical device to be used, and things like that. And what the doctors here in Stockholm demonstrated is that by doing that, they can significantly reduce the procedure time from 3 to 4 hours down to 2 hours in this. And the shorter procedure times means less risk for the patient, less anesthesia, faster ambulation time, all the things I talked about before. So this is an example of where the most advanced doctors in the world could leverage kind of our technology. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, next slide. I'm going to wrap this up in 2 minutes here. So we are moving from basic training to proficiency, meaning that the simulator have objective assessment, and they are able to really assess in an objective way what the physician does, which means it's possible for a physician to train to a specific target, skills target. He can also compare his performance on a specific case with other doctors that have done the same case, and you can get an objective answer. As we're moving to the right here, so we have this dot we are here, the precision, that's where we talk about patient-specific simulation, importing a specific patient's anatomy, preparing for a certain task. And our ambition here is to move to the right to the predictive, where you have ability. I mean, compared to self-driving cars and similar, where a modern car would have a lot of support systems like auto braking, line assist, and things like that. That's what we want to go, using AI and machine learning to provide feedback and guidance for doctors. And that's not far away. That's maybe a couple of years. We're already touching on that. We have solutions in that area, but that's really what we're aiming for. Next slide, please. So ultimately what we're looking at is the robotic assisted surgery, and in this field of endovascular procedures, robotics is probably 5 years behind general surgery or kind of minimal invasive surgery. But they have a lot of opportunity to really be moving into the robotics side, meaning real robotics, where the robot actually can do a large part of the procedure, or the robot can make decisions as well. So that's where Mentice see its role, where we believe our physics and our technology can actually help drive the robot and help train the robot. That's where we see the largest opportunity. All right, next slide, please. So this is the summary. I mean, we really continue building on the core functionality we have for endovascular therapies, where we have a really strong position. We have the integration with the imaging companies' equipment like Siemens and Philips, which brings us very close to the clinical practice. We combine that with the data and analytics of when doctors perform cases both in the simulated world but in the real world. That data will be very, very valuable for us, but for everyone. And then moving into to the high stakes and the complicated procedures like heart valves and similar, where the consequence of a mistake or an error is typically very, very lethal or dangerous. And clearly the precision medicine and the patient-specific situation is really what we aim for. That's where we see the largest opportunity, leading to robotic support solutions. Next slide, please. That's it. So 24 minutes. I hope that was okay, Rickard.
Yeah, and I will run off with one question before I tell the viewers that we will hear from you soon in the Penser Pod.
Yeah.
And my first question is, if you were to quantify the recovery time when you move from endovascular surgery from open heart surgery, what is the difference in recovery time approximately?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a doctor. I didn't say that before, but I'm not a doctor. So if there's doctors in the audience, I mean, just make that note. But I mean, what you can see, if you do a less complicated endovascular procedure, like a heart-related procedure, I mean, a heart infarct or so, I mean, you can typically leave the hospital the same evening or the day after. comparing to if you do a bypass surgery, you will probably stay for a couple of weeks. I would say if you do a more complicated procedure like a heart valve procedure in an endovascular situation, you can probably leave within a couple of days, while if you have done an open surgery, you would have to stay for weeks. So it's a significant difference, yeah.
Okay, and my next question is about the 2 acquisitions you made during the quarter. Can you just briefly describe them?
Yeah. No, super good question. Thank you. So the first one is a New York-based company called Vascular Simulations, who does silicon-based simulation environment. So instead of having a computer model, they actually use the computer model to produce a silicon version of the anatomy, and then you can introduce real devices, but also conceptual level devices. So the reason we have done that acquisition is that this company is the world-leading provider of that kind of technology, and we see the synergy between virtual simulation as we do and the vascular simulations physical model in order for us to engage with the world's largest device company, helping them with product development. So really provide a one-stop shop solution from inception of a new product all the way out to rollout in volume. So we see a lot of opportunity in that. The second one is a small company called Equip in Jacksonville, Florida, US as well. It's a couple of doctors here that have defined a cloud service called My IR Log. Today it's done for interventional radiologists, but it's allowed doctors to store their cases performed and also to have their proctors to enter in rating of what they did well or less well during those cases. So that's serving doctor to have their credentials when they apply for new jobs and things like that. But it's also a way for hospitals to have an overview of the skill set and the level of experience of their staffs. So the reason why we've done that is we want to bring the simulated world together with the actual cases in the real environment. And our ambition is to move that into other specialities, to have instead of only a My IR, so interventional radiology log, we also want to have an interventional cardiology and interventional neurology and so forth. So we want to expand that to provide physician data of both real and simulated procedures. We believe the data is going to be super important for the future here.
Göran, thank you so much for coming here to Erik Penser Banks Bolagsdag, and looking forward to hearing you in the Penser Pod soon.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bye.